Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the session of Quispamsis Town Council. I am calling the meeting to order. It is 5:03. May I have an approval of the agenda, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor Scryer. On the question, please vote.
Can we get a verbal? Because
You have a verbal, please. May I see your raise? Motion carried unanimously. Open session 3A, procedural bylaw number 066, recommendations and discussion staff from the staff report from the clerk. Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you all for your time reviewing this bylaw. The staff report in your package is based on all the feedback gathered during the discussions at several committee of the whole meetings, and also the subsequent feedback from our solicitor. And it offers some recommendations on a few key areas. A proposed time change, which would shift everything forward, or later, I should say, by a half an hour. And this is related to Section 8A, regular meetings, and Section 10D, Committee of the Whole. The second recommendation is under Section 16D, admitting members to the public before council. And this would be the addition of language regarding expectations around respectful conduct and how disrespectful conduct will be managed, as outlined in the staff report. And finally, there's no recommendations at this time being offered regarding the following. Section 27, committees. There's no recommendation offered due to the proposed governance review of all the committees as outlined in the staff report. And also related to a new section that was discussed relating to email polls. No recommendation is offered due to the feedback received from our solicitor related to the legal risks associated with that method, as outlined in the staff report. There is a proposed motion, however, there's no requirement to move this forward at this time if council wishes to discuss it further. I welcome any questions. And thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks again to the clerk for stick handling this review and for council's contributions. I trust the staff report provides what you need, but again, certainly welcome further discussion this evening if helpful. I do have one question around the Section 10D Committee of the Whole, where we're stipulating a start time of 5:30 there. I'm a little reluctant to peg that so tightly to 5:30 start, just because sometimes we do recognize that we need a little bit more time in that Committee of the Whole setting. So be my recommendation to just remove the reference to the specific time there to give us the flexibility that it could be 5:30, it could be 5 on nights that we know we need a little more. But otherwise, I'm certainly supportive of the content of the staff report, and I do support our solicitor's opinion that email polls are presenting a bit of a risk to us in that those email polls, although conducted only when necessary, they have excluded the opportunity for discussion and debate and a shared decision of council. So I appreciate that they've always been used when necessary to address an urgent issue. Given today's technology, our hope would be that we'd be able to pull a quorum together through a Teams call for an urgent situation.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. On the question, I guess we haven't had a vote yet. Deputy Mayor Squire.
Oh, thank you, Your Worship, and thank you for, to Ms. McGinnis for the review. It's quite thorough, and I can understand waiting on the other ones, the nomination committee. I don't really see the reason for starting a half an hour later, or starting at 6:30 versus 6. I'd like to keep it at 6, but that would be the wish of council, whatever that would be my preference.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Miller, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and through you to the CAO, I guess I'm okay with keeping it at 5:30, and then if there's an emergency, you bring it down to 4 or whatever, 5 o'clock. And with the deputy mayor's comment, I think the reason why we want to move to 5:30 and 6:30 is for people that actually have other jobs. I mean, you see me and Councillor Donovan challenged to get here at 5 o'clock, and so I just want to be sure what we're voting on. For me, I'm voting for what I saw, not for what I just heard, and I did miss, I don't know if there's any other discussion, but I'm okay with the 5:30, 6:30. So I just need to be clear what I'm voting for. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Miller, and I'll remove myself from the chair. I did speak with other mayors, and what they claim that they have done is that with St. John, for example, and most of the councillors on that council do work. But as part of your, and according to Mayor Reardon, part of your stipend is to say that if you do have to miss work, this is not an additional paycheck for work done. It's if you have to leave work early. So they are at the council office at 4 o'clock every Monday. Like, if it's not a holiday, then they're there because that's what they've signed up for. Doesn't matter to me which way it goes, but I just want you to know what other councils have done, and it works for them.
We also signed up for 7 and 6, and we changed them.
Yep, with the vote of council. So I'm just saying, I'm not being argumentative, I'm just,
I just want to know what I'm voting.
yep, fair enough. Thank you. Anyone else?
So am I voting for what's on there, or, because I only know what was on there. Has anything changed? I mean, we had comments, that's what I'm trying to vote.
Well,
Councillor Bigger, please.
thank you, Worship. I mean, the staff report kind of indicates the proposed changes. Is that what you mean?
I'll go to Councillor Thompson. Councillor Thompson?
Thank you, Your Worship. I personally would prefer starting at 6. And as far as the committee of the whole, I would say not to put like 5:30. You'd be notified sort of when you get your kit when it starts, because if we say 5:30 and 6:30, and there's more in committee of the whole than what we expect to be there, then we would have to come back. And if it's a 6:30 start, and I know it's only half an hour difference, but it makes a half an hour difference on the other end as well. So it just extends the time, and sometimes we're here till 9 o'clock. We'd be here till 9:30, 9:45. You know, like it does change it. But, you know, I'm not, you know, I'm not I'm not upset about the 6:30 start. I'm just more concerned about the committee of the whole being at 5:30 and bang on at 5:30. Because it could be, you know, 1:45 or quarter after, or it could take, if we say 5:30, then that's what it's gonna be, 5:30 every time. And if there's a lot in committee, which sometimes there is, which it has to be there, then we could be doing the same thing every council meeting, coming back. And then there's people that have to leave, you know, for whatever reason. But that's just my opinion, just my opinion.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thanks for the discussion. I think for Councillor Miller's question about clarity about where we are here, I understand that we're considering a move of regular session to 6:30. the current bylaw does not include a start time for committee of the whole. It's silent to it. So my recommendation would be to not adopt language that introduces a start time to the committee of the whole, just leave it silent. And to Councillor Thompson's point, it gives us some latitude to be a little early if we know we have a heavy agenda. I say that in part because the practice of needing to come back afterwards precludes our ability to finish that topic by bringing it out in open that same night. If we've come back after, then we've lost that opportunity to close it. So the more we can do in committee at the front end and then get things resolved in open session or regular session, the better. So I think where we are on the basis of the discussion and recommendations to date, it's to consider a start time of a regular session to 6:30 and our recommendation following discussion would be to remain silent to the start time of committee of the whole.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Councillor Bigger, please.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. I had a question around section 16D about admitting members of the public. And specifically just the measures that would be taken to sort of advise, residents who would fill the gallery around, maintaining civil discourse and be respectful and so on. I assume that the language that's here in this third, I guess it's the fourth bullet point, technically, I suppose, under that section, but starting with members of the public must be, I assume that's not the exact language, but rather just a sort of a reference to what we're going for. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, I'm just assuming that. So maybe you could, I'll direct this through you, Your Worship, to the CAO perhaps to kind of speak to that, or to the clerk, whoever would be more appropriate. And then the other thing is, I just would like to have a better understanding of how you plan to consistently make that point. I mean, do we sort of just before the meeting starts, just have someone just makes mention? I see that it's, by staff and the presiding officer, who I presume to be, I don't know if that's not a reference to the chair, is it? I don't know. But in any case, I'm a little confused about that, so I would appreciate a little clarity. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Bigger. Madam Clerk, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. So your first portion of the question is no, that wording would be revised for the actual amendment and inserted into our bylaw. And as for the second, it would be provided to any residents that contact the town relating to attending council meetings. And other than that, I would say it would have to come through the presiding officer, the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Watson, please.
Thank you, Worship. And maybe just to build on that a little bit, I think the language there allows for communication by staff, which to the clerk's point could be the proactive communication with a member of a member of the public who intends to come and present. But it doesn't preclude other methods such as printed materials being available to people who come in, signage, etc. So we're just trying to leave that opportunity for clear and respectful communications about our expectations of behavior in the chamber.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Okay, so that makes sense for sure. I like the passive nature of that. In my mind's eye, I'm seeing this kind of, de facto declaration that ends up becoming part of the meeting. And that's kind of what I was wondering. The first bullet point there, information about expectations and the management of disrespectful conduct, will be communicated to members of the public by staff and the presiding officer. I mean, based on what the clerk just shared with me and what the CAO built on, that doesn't quite jive with, this to me indicates that there will be an opportunity taken to ensure that whoever is in the public gallery, whether it's because they got an email before they arrived, because they reached out to us, or we just cover our bases. Maybe there's a sign over the door as they come in, or somebody, according to this, either by staff or the presiding officer. I guess the presiding officer would be more the probably who you were referring to in the meeting. I'm not disagreeing with this in the slightest. I think this is a perfectly sound idea, okay? So I'm not trying to disagree with the idea. I'm trying to imagine just how that flows and how we seek to avoid creating a sort of a vibe by virtue of warning people before a meeting even starts that they'd better make sure they stay respectful before anything even happens. So that's my concern. And I'm not assuming that you haven't considered that either, so.
If I may, Counselor Bigger, in other meetings that we've held where we've had some rather eager and some very passionate people coming to either speak or to listen. And at times when there was one gentleman in particular who was shouting out and giving his opinion when it wasn't his turn to speak, I gave him a warning and told him if his behavior continued, that he would be removed. And that seemed to settle the issue. So most people,
This seems to be more of a proactive kind of policy that we're working on here, that would preempt a meeting or serve as the starting point or even before a meeting starts. That's what I'm trying to just understand. Is that what we're getting at here?
so the other side to that is when we did have these large crowds at various times over the last little while, I have always said, this meeting will be held with respect to everybody who is attending, and please take your turn to go to the podium and not to interfere with other speakers or to speak out of turn, that sort of thing. And for the most part, that has worked. I mean, we may get somebody, but I think that's the way that we would start most meetings. I always say when I start this meeting, okay, councillors, we're ready to begin. So there's a line where you set the table and you say, okay, it's time to be seated and to act accordingly. So to say that we are preempting, that's how we would begin the meeting, would be to say, we understand that you are here to hear or listen or whatever, or to speak to a certain topic, and that you will be heard. However, we will all be respectful of one another. And then we begin the meeting.
Thank you very much, all.
Deputy Mayor Squire, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. This sort of dovetails right into the conference that was held early January on harassment and civility, more the civility side I'm referring to. And the province is supposed to be coming out any day now. They said the end of January, so they must be a little late, with a policy to be shared with all municipalities. So it might be prudent for us to take a look at that policy before we put something in writing here, because there might, it came up a lot about signage, that it's really our responsibility to have signage in our public spaces to let people know exactly what is expected. I know that very rarely does it happen in Quispam. We've been very fortunate the way everybody's respectful, but it happens over the years. I've seen it. And so just an idea that because that hasn't been released yet, there could be some really good tips in there as well.
Thank you. So one of the questions was that we remove the time just out of the 5:30 closed session, just so that it leaves it open with the idea that it will start at 5:30, but if there is an opportunity or a time when we feel that the agenda is so hefty that we have to come earlier, that's what we're asking you to be open to, rather than coming back later, which gives us the opportunity, if something in that agenda of closed has to be moved forward, to open. Councillor Luck, please.
I'm going to make the motion. I guess because the staff report does have the 5:30, I'm not sure if we have to modify the motion to exclude that.
It'll come back to, like, for the first and second
Okay.
reading, so you'll see that as
Okay.
another document.
Okay. So do you want me to add that? No. Okay. So so I'll move that council accepts the recommendations as presented and directed, and direct staff to draft revisions to bylaw 66 accordingly, seeking legal review before returning to council for first and second readings.
Thank you, Councillor Locke. Motion's been made by Counselor Luck on the question. No. It's still committee, yeah. On the question, Deputy Mayor?
Just on the question as to the feedback that I gave on section 10, whether or not there's going to be any consultation on that, or if we're just going to vote on the motion tonight by the looks of it.
I think as the clerk just said, if we get to first and second reading and we want to amend at that time, we can do that, if that's amenable to everyone. On the question, please vote. It was in your package. It was the discussion on the procedural.
I can, because he did miss a portion of that discussion. Just mark him as present after.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion carried 5-1, the nay being Councillor, or Deputy Mayor Scryer. And reports, January 20th Committee of the Whole meeting, there for you to see. And we will move now to closed session, Tim. Okay, we're going to take 2-minute pause. Anyone needs 2-minute break? Just until we get offline and into closed. No, because we're going right into the other
So
section.
need the closed session resolution.
Yes. Yeah. I'm just waiting for Tim to.